Hi, and welcome to Flux News. You're here with Dom, PJ, and Andy. The first article is Jihadi John, Islamic State killer, is identified as Londoner Mohammed Emwazi. The world knows him as Jihadi John, the masked man with a British accent who has beheaded several hostages held by the Islamic State and who tells audiences in videos circulated widely online. But his real name, according to friends and others familiar with his case, is Mohammed Emwazi, a Briton from a well-to-do family who grew up in West London and graduated from college with a degree in computer programming. He is believed to have travelled to Syria around 2012 and to have later joined the Islamic State, the group whose barbarity he has come to symbolise. I have no doubt that Mohammed is Jihadi John, said one of Emwazi's close friends, who identified him in an interview with the Washington Post. He said, "He was like a brother to me. I am sure it is him." A representative of a British human rights group, who had been in contact with Emwazi before he left for Syria, also said he believed Emwazi was Jihadi John, a moniker given to him by some of the hostages he once held. There was an extremely strong resemblance. Axiom research director of the rights group Cage, said, when shown one of the videos and asked to confirm whether Emwazi could be Jihadi John. "This is making me feel fairly certain this is the same person," he added. Authorities have used a variety of investigative techniques, including voice analysis and interviews with former hostages, to try to identify Jihadi John. James B. Comer, the director of the FBI, said in September, only a month after the Briton was seen in a video killing American journalist James Foley, that officials believe they are needed. Nevertheless, the identity of Jihadi John has remained shrouded in secrecy. Since Foley's killing, he has appeared in a series of videos documenting the gruesome killings of other hostages, including 4 other Westerners, some of he personally beheaded. Let's have a look at a little video of this Jihadi John and what he's saying.
Might appear to be a non-loader, this one again.
Is this the second video?
I'm back, Obama, and I'm back because of your arrogant foreign policy towards the Islamic State. Your military air force is attacking us daily in Iraq. Your strikes have caused casualties amongst Muslims. Despite our serious warnings, you, Obama, have yet again, through your actions, killed yet another American citizen. And to the Japanese public, just as how your government has made the foolish decision to pay $200 million to fight the Islamic State, you now have 72 hours to pressure your government in making a wise decision by paying the $200 million to save the lives of your citizens. Otherwise, this knife will become your nightmare.
In each, he is dressed in all black, a balaclava covering all but his eyes and the ridge of his nose. He wears an ulcer under his left arm. A spokesman for the British Embassy in Washington said, "Our Prime Minister has been clear that we want all those who have committed murder on behalf of the Islamic State to face justice for the appalling acts carried out. There is an ongoing police investigation into the murder of hostages by Islamic State in Syria. It is not appropriate for the government to comment on any part of it while this continues. Islamic State is another name. ISIL is another name for Islamic State. US officials declined to comment for this report, and Emwazi's family declined a request for an interview, citing legal advice. The Kwati-born Emwazi, in his mid-20s, appeared to have little left little trail on social media or elsewhere online. Those who knew him say he was polite and had a passion for wearing stylish clothes while adhering to the tenets of Islamic faith. He had a beard and was mindful of making eye contact with women, friends said. He was raised in a middle-class neighbourhood in London and on occasion prayed at a mosque in Greenwich. The friends who spoke on the conditionometer because of the sensitivity of the investigation believe that Emwazi started to radicalise after a planned safari into Tanzania following his graduation from the University of Westminster. Emwazi and two friends, a German convert to Islam named Omar and another man, Abu Talib, never made it on the trip. Once they landed in Dar es Salaam in May 2009, they were detained by police and held overnight. It's unclear whether the reason for the detention was made clear to the three, but they were eventually deported. Emwazi flew to Amsterdam where he claimed that an officer for M15, Britain's domestic security agency, accused him of trying to reach Somalia, where the militant group Al-Shabaab operates in the southern parts of the country. According to emails that he sent to Croatia and that were provided to the police, Emwazi denied the accusation and claimed that M15 representatives have tried to recruit him. But former hostage said Jihadi John was obsessed with Somalia and made his captors watch videos about Al-Shabaab, which is allied with Al-Qaeda. The episode was described in the Independent and British newspaper, which identified Emwazi as Mohammed Emwazi. Emwazi and his friends were allowed to return to Britain, where he met with Cross in the fall of 2009 to discuss what happened. Mohammed was quite incensed by his treatment. They had been very unfairly treated. Well, anyway, let's look at another video at the top of here. This is a report who explains who Mohammed Emwazi is and how the Washington Post discovered his identity.
Jihadi John is a young man named Mohammed Emwazi, who's about 26 years old and is from West London. He was born in Kuwait. I believe he was young, maybe 6 or 7. Immigrated to London with his family, grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in West London, in fact, just down the road from the Beatles studios, and attended Westminster University, graduated in 2009. Then he set off to Africa, and that's where his problems started. When he went to Africa in 2009, he was probably radicalized by then. And the Brits had suspected he was going to join Al-Shabaab. That's why they questioned him. In Syria, when he was overseeing the hostages, he made them watch Al-Shabaab videos. We collected various bits of information about him over the last several weeks, if not months. And then, we picked up a first name, and then we picked up, part of a last name. And then it just took getting on the ground in London and knocking on doors. At least 2 of them already had identified him in the videos before we approached them. They didn't seem distressed. I think at least one of them put the blame on London, accused Great Britain of creating this problem, that he felt caged and he couldn't leave the country to go see his bride in Kuwait. This has only been a mystery to the public. British intelligence and the FBI, U.S. intelligence, they've known his identity for months. Literally about a month after the first beheading video in which he killed American journalist Jim Foley, FBI Director James Comey came out and said, "We know who you are." He's never going to go home. If he goes home, it'll probably be in a box or in handcuffs.
So that's Jihadi John, almost as Mohammed Emwazi. Any comments?
Yeah, apparently I have an article today, and it said that Talisa apparently went to school in the same year.
Oh yeah, the same. Yeah, they were in the same class, same year.
Same year at school.
Right, moving on to the next article. Gordon Brown is highest earning MP with 1.37 million, but he gives it all to charity. One Prime Minister Gordon Brown did not personally receive a penny from the 1.37 million he generated from speeches and writing over the past year, his office said today. Mr Brown was the MP with the highest earnings from outside Parliament in 2012-2013. A spokesman said that all of the money went directly to charity or to fund charitable work by the ex-PM and his wife Sarah. He has also chosen not to accept the traditionally generous pension given to former Prime Ministers, said the spokesman. According to the analyst by The Guardian, MPs declared earnings of more than £7 million in the Commons Register of Interest from outside jobs and directorships in the last session of Parliament. Some 295 of the 650 MPs declared some form of income, and 20 made more money outside Parliament than their MP salary of £65,738. The total declared by Conservative MPs came to 4.3 million, and by Labour MPs 2.4 million, more than half of it accounted for by Mr Brown, who listed a string of his speaking engagements around the world. Spokesman for Mr Brown said, Mr Brown personally does not receive a penny from speeches or writings. He has thus no second income and does not benefit from outside earnings. All the fees from speeches and writings are not paid to him, and all the money goes directly to charity or to fund charitable work by himself and his wife. Mr Brown's only income is his salary as an MP, because he also renounced the pension conventionally paid to all former Prime Ministers. Under parliamentary rules, MPs are allowed to take on outside work, including company directorships and consultancies, so as long as all income is declared in the Commons Register and their work does not involve lobbying in Parliament. Other top earners include Conservative MP for Sleaford and North Arkham Stephen Phillips, who declared £740,000 from work as a barrister. Mr Phillips said his outside work helped him keep in touch with the real world, adding, "What matters is whether or not I do my job as an MP and how well I do it." Tory MP for Torridge and West Devon Geoffrey Cox declared £417,000 from work as a barrister. Conservative MP for Middlesex Nicholas Soames earned £305,000 from directorships and consultancies. Former Defence Secretary Sir Malcolm Rifkin earned £276,000. Labour's former Chancellor Alistair Darling £263,000. Tory MP for Wokingham John Redwood £238,000, and Labour's ex-Home Secretary Jack Straw £183,000. So that's the fees of what they earned, the highest ones. This is Gordon Brown here, so who says he's giving all his earnings to charity? He just lives off his MP wage.
But yeah, does he actually give any facts to back all that up? Do they actually have they released figures and everything like that?
No, yeah, no, it's just a report that's come out saying he has, but he's not backed up or anything.
This is coming from the honest Gordon Brown, who apparently sold most of Britain's gold at the lowest rock bottom price at the time. I think it was in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We should have a look later after this and see what he's been up to.
I didn't have a chance to get to comment on Jihadi John very quickly because you moved on.
Apologies. And for those who didn't know, Talisa, where it's a group from N-Dubs called N-Dubs. If you're wondering. So,
just basically from your article, really, he graduated as a computer programmer at the University of Westminster.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's quite coincidental. And again, not for the first time, connections with MI5 as perhaps a recruitment.
Spy.
Again. What now? Haven't we heard this before with other terrorist actions? I think the Woolwich the Woolwich beheading, wasn't that the same with those two guys?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there seems to be a reoccurring theme here with these guys and the intelligence service. And if they'd known about him ages and ages ago, how long did they really know about this guy? And how comes they sort of let him slip through the net? And
Well, I don't know. I mean, one's Islamic State. I mean, why are Britain reluctant to get involved? I mean, are they something to do with Islamic State? Have they set up down there?
well, if it's ISIS, if that's what the Islamic State is, ISIS. Again, we were told that. Well, I read articles that they came from part of Al-Nusra, and the the Syrian free-fighting, whatever they are, freedom fighting army, whatever they are.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, so
Syrian Free Army.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, apparently ISIS. Well, I read an article. I mean, I think I did that. This is where ISIS came from. So I don't know. So you can then trace them back.
Well, they must have had a lot of funding. I mean, a few years ago they weren't really heard of, and so all of a sudden they're massive. I mean, where they got all this funding from to get this big?
Well, what I'm saying is, if these are all known and they know where they come from, and the intelligence services know all this stuff well in advance, why don't they stop these guys before they carry out these so-called, these atrocities? Why don't they do something about it before? They always seem to conveniently slip through the net and get away and commit these.
I was just about to say, Andy, apparently another article I've come across relating to this is some sort of manual floating about on the internet that they're trying to get took down. It's telling people, which routes to take to get to Syria and stuff like that. So I thought I'd just mention that.
Yeah, well, there's obviously a failure here somewhere if these guys are slipping through the net all the time or something like that, or I don't know. Perhaps intelligence world is the intelligence world, I guess. But and of course, none of it's denied, is it? I read further down the article somewhere or something about MI5. They're not denying. Or
The question is it smart?
Ah.
I said, is the intelligence smart intelligence?
Ah, well, everything seems to be going smart this day and age, doesn't it? Anyway, sorry, Dom, I didn't mean to stop you. I just never.
No, but no, it's good for your input.
Yeah, I'm just
Yep.
asking what most people, I suppose, are thinking. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'll let you carry on.
Next article: married TV actor wakes up to find his testicles have been stolen after kissing young woman in sauna. This is a photo of waking up in hospital. A married TV actor who met a young woman and kissed her in a sauna woke up to find his testicles had been stolen. Dimitri Nikolov, 30, is believed to be the target of a gang, including a doctor, which may be harvesting organs and still on the black market. Nikolov had a drink with a young blonde woman he met at a bar in a Moscow theatre before she invited him to a sauna, reports Mail Online. Police source told the website they kissed and had some beer, and after that the actor remembers nothing. They believe Nikolov's drink was spiked. He woke up the next day at a bus stop in acute pain and noticed blood on his trousers. At the hospital, staff told him that his testicles had been removed, and that they appeared to the operation being done by a medical professional. Police believe the gang is stealing human organs selling on the black market. So that's that's him. Definitely in there. That's serious.
I wouldn't really say that's a laughing matter. That sounds pretty painful to me. Oh.
What can you transplant testicles, or is this some type of sick something to put on a sicko's menu?
Well, I know that people are. I don't. Well, you don't need. Could you have? You don't have implants, do you? Like you never know what needs them. People remove testicles, but they don't never need to put They don't really put real ones in, do they? So what are they taking them out for? What are they taking them for?
No, it's just the sweetbread theory.
People, what? Put them on a menu. People eat them.
Yeah.
Why does it say actor wakes up? What actor? Is he an actor?
You know, he's an actor.
Oh yeah.
He's a TV actor. He's a TV actor in Russia.
Right, so it's mad. It's bizarre, definitely bizarre.
Could only happen in Russia.
I'm just trying to work out why.
Well, apparently, certain groups in the Middle East have been harvesting them as well.
I don't know.
So
Yeah. Right, moving on.
You shouldn't be laughing because if it's true, then you know.
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's definitely true article, not a fake article.
Well, what can you say? He's a bit ballsed up now. Well, he was ballsed up, but now he's not.
Yeah, yeah.
you know what you said? You got to keep the eye on the ball.
Yeah, but he's not got no balls now. Right. Widow sues herself after husband dies in car crash. This is Barbara Bagley who's suing Barbara Bagley in an attempt to claim compensation. Barbara Bagley, 55, has been given approval to sue Barbara Bagley herself in an attempt to seek damages for medical and funeral expenses following the death of her husband, Bradley Von Baur. She is also trying to claim compensation on top of that in a wrongful death case that will see her as a witness for the prosecution and defence. The insurance company refused to pay out and said she was at fault, said Reed Takota, who is representing widow Miss Bagley. It said it was preparing to pay for the car, but it would not take responsibility for her husband. She is facing funeral expenses, medical expenses and creditors. Mr. Von Baur, also 55, was thrown from the family car as it overturned when Miss Bagley hit a huge bush while driving across the Nevada desert in December 2011. Prosecutors in Utah will be trying to prove that driver Mrs. Bagley was at fault. This way she can claim compensation from the crash as well as medical and funeral expenses. Mr. Taoka added that Miss Bagley from Salt Lake City, Utah, would not make much out of the case. He said, "She won't receive anything personally out of this. He might just take care of an headstone." So this is Barbara Bagley, who's suing Barbara Bagley herself to claim compensation so she can pay for her husband's headstone over a couple of hours. Moving on. Extremely sour lolly burns hole in kid's tongue. This is it, yeah. He's had the lolly. It's a trying to remember what it's called. An extreme sour lolly has lived up to its name after burning a hole in this kid's tongue. This is it, yeah. It's painful, so. Lachlan Cannick, age 7, of Sydney, Australia, has to blend his dinners to eat them after the painful experience last week. The boy's mum, Ayla, says she felt sick when she saw the damage caused by a warhead during his extreme sour lolly. She posted a photo on Facebook and wrote, "I really felt the need to share this photo. This happened after he was eating sour warhead candy, which has burnt an hole in his tongue." This is it here. So to Junior's extreme sour. The lollies contain malic acid and are marketed as an extreme candy by US company Impact Confections. The packaging states that the lollies are appropriate for children aged 4 and older. It comes with a warning that eating multiple pieces within a short time period may cause a temporary irritation to sensitive tongues and mouths. So this is him with his mum, who burnt an hole in his tongue.
That's, I thought originally when you were talking about it, it were a frozen lolly, but yeah. It's malic acid, is it?
Yes, that's his burnt an hole in his tongue now.
Extreme what? Extreme lolly? Extreme...
It's an extreme candy.
It's a US warhead.
Extreme sour... Like, why what?
extremes, the extreme juniors, extreme sour, artificially flavoured.
What a balmy product. Why?
It's called Warheads. No, you've seen on top of Warheads. Yes, it's like it's boiling on. It's supposed to be on his burnt all in his tongue.
Uranium.
Well, you've got a warhead. You've got to have a warhead to eat such a thing. And there's some. I don't know. Poor kid got burnt hole in his tongue.
Right, my final article. Watch this drunk man tries to fight a group of schoolboys. This is a shocking moment. A full-grown man tries to fight a group of school children on their lunch break. After landing a blow on one of the boys, thought to be 14, the man in his late 20s or 30s then puts his fists up. The footage was allegedly taken outside a chip shop in Greenock, Aberclyde, yesterday afternoon. In the 2-minute video, the man can be seen shouting and swearing before taking his jacket off in preparation for a fight. He also stumbles outside the chip shop appearing to be drunk. When the young lads finally overpower the much older man, they set up on him, and he's only let up when a member of the public breaks it up. Dozens of bystanders watching as the whole creation gets more and more heated. Officials have suggested the incident could have been over a racial incident before filming began. Aberclyde Council spokesman said, "We can confirm that an incident took place outside of school grounds today, where a male believed to be in his 30s is alleged to have punched 2 pupils and racially abused another. Senior staff from the school assisted pupils who were 8 and later parents. Witness statements have been provided to the police." Well, this is a little video here of what happened.
So what do you come out here when you get a real short? Marco, did you say? Marco, did you say when you go from the house? I'm gonna get into the shop. Oh, he's just back up again, lads.
Right, that's drunk man who's got owned there. So yeah, that's it for me. Over to you.
Alright, Dom, thanks very much. Yeah, good that. Okay, let me see what we've got for it, shall we? Right, my first one is German nurse sentenced to life for killing patients because he was bored. The former nurse has been on trial since September for 3 murders and 2 attempted murders, although a court-appointed psychiatrist said he admitted to killing at least 30 patients. There you go, hide it behind book. Okay. A German male nurse who admitted to killing at least 30 patients between 2003 and 2005 apologised to the victims' families in court Thursday. Identified only as Niels H. Due to Germany's strict privacy rules, the man has been on trial in an Oldenburg court since September for the alleged murders of 3 patients. Though a court-appointed psychiatrist said earlier this month that Niels H. had admitted to killing at least 30 patients in his care, prosecutors believe the full number could be over 100 people. It sounds like some sort of shipment. According to the expert, Niels H. admitted to injecting seriously ill patients with an overdose of a potentially dangerous medicine so that he could resuscitate them. In court on Thursday, the former nurse apologised for his actions. "I am honestly sorry," the 38-year-old said, according to AFP. "Usually the decision to do it was relatively spontaneous." Niels H. reportedly told police after he was arrested that he killed the patients because he was bored. Prosecutors also said that he wanted to practice his excellent resuscitation skills. The Deutsche Welle, a German broadcaster, reported in November. The death rate nearly doubled during the time Niels H. worked at the clinic, and the deaths of 174 patients during his shift are under investigation. The former nurse was previously sentenced to 7.5 years in prison in 2008 for the attempted murder of another patient. 60 others have survived his attacks, Sky News reported. Prosecutors have said that Niels H. injected the patients with a medication that should only be used by doctors under strict supervision. The medicine could cause the heart to function irregularly and blood pressure to drop. If Niels H. succeeded in reviving a patient, he would sometimes try to medicate them again for a second attempt, prosecutors said. Spokesman Michael Herman told the Associated Press that after delivering his apology, Niels H. told family members who were there as co-plaintiffs that he hopes it would help them heal, although he'd understand if they couldn't accept that. A verdict in the trial is expected next week. Prosecutors are seeking a life sentence, the AP reported. There you go, is a German nurse. Could be going down for life.
It's like Harold Shipman, isn't it? Harold Shipman.
Yeah, another shipment.
He goes on.
Yeah, but there was a guy in the Edwardian days near where I live. He was called Dr. Bodkin Adams, and he used to do the same to his elderly patients, but he used to get them to sign over the will to him beforehand, or some of them did, and then he would do his dastardly deed. But this guy,
Is that not what Shipman did?
same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
And good, same as Bodkin, Dr. Bodkin Adams. Anyway, this guy just done it because apparently he was bored.
And he wanted to show his skills for resuscitating.
How do these people get past? Well, is there any? Well, I didn't know. I was going to say, makes you wonder whether there's any type of not screening, I suppose, or people who get put in these positions of looking after vulnerable people in hospitals and things. I don't know. Mad.
Okay, moving on. Frankenstein-style human head transplant could happen in 2 years. Italian surgeon claims procedure to graft a living person's head onto a donor body will soon be ready. Dr. Sergio Canavero speaks about his head transplant idea at a TEDx event in Limassol. first human head transplant could take place in just 2 years. It was reported on Thursday. Italian surgeon Sergio Canavero from the Turin Advanced Neuromodulation Group claims that Frankenstein-style procedure to graft a living person's head onto a donor body will soon be ready. Breakthrough surgery is being pioneered to help extend the lives of people who have suffered degeneration of the muscles and nerves or those who have advanced cancer. The New Scientist reported Dr. Canavero plans to announce the project at the American Academy of Neurological and Orthopedic Surgeons Conference in Annapolis, Maryland in June. Mr. Canavero published a paper on the technique he would use in the Surgical Neurology International journal this month. The recipient's head and the donor body would be cooled at the start of the procedure to extend the time that cells can survive without oxygen. Tissue around the neck would be dissected and major blood vessels would be joined using tiny tubes. Spinal cords would then be cut and the recipient's head moved onto the donor body. The ends of the spinal cord would be fused together using a chemical called polyethylene, I think that is, yeah, polyethylene glycol, which encourages fat within cell membranes to mesh. After this, the person would be put into a coma for around 4 weeks to prevent them moving while they heal. Mr. Canavero said he would expect the patient to be able to move and feel their face when they awoke. They would speak with the same voice and they should be able to walk within a year. Mr. Canavero first proposed the idea of the surgery in 2013, but at the time other experts dismissed the idea. He told the New Scientist, "If society doesn't want it, I won't do it. But if people don't want it in the US or Europe, that doesn't mean it won't be done somewhere else. I'm trying to go about this the right way, but before going to the moon, you want me to make sure people will follow you." The first successful head transplant involving moving the head of one monkey onto another was carried out in 1970 at the Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, US. The monkey lived for 9 days, but his immune system rejected the head. So there you go. Frankenstein-style. I think to that one, guys.
Well, you're covering some ghoulish subjects tonight, PJ.
My apologies.
The world's mad, isn't it? Totally mad. Totally mad.
So I'll move on.
That's another, well, very briefly, that's not quite the same as the transhumanism, is it? But maybe a head on a
It's most nearest to transhumanism than anything else I know.
well, a head on a computer, a head transplanted to the top of a laptop, perhaps. I don't know. So, isn't it? Madness. Right. Sorry, PJ. I'll let you can.
Maybe this one will bring you around. High hopes. Cannabis legislation party to stand in UK general election. A new political party is planning to stand as many as 100 candidates at May's general election with the aim of pushing through reforms to UK drug law. SISTA, I think I'm pronouncing that right, or CISTA, Cannabis is safer than alcohol, claims that tax revenue gained from legalising cannabis could cut the government's deficit by up to £1.25 billion. The party is inspired by the decision to legalise the recreational use and sale of marijuana in several US states, including Colorado and Washington. Its election candidates will include Paul Birch, who co-founded the social networking site Bebo before it was sold to AOL for $850 million. in 2008. There is a sound economic argument for legislation. Properly regulated, the Exchequer would benefit from as much as up to 900 million. If cannabis was made legal and properly controlled, Sister says on its website. In America, the state of Colorado has made $50 million in cannabis tax since legislation in 2014. The party was launched earlier this month. Decades of criminalizing use of cannabis have failed on every front. Across the world, countries are properly redrafting laws relating to cannabis use with benefits for the economy, public health, and levels of crime. Sister exists to replicate this success. So far, 5 candidates are registered to stand at this year's general election. The party will now travel to UK in search of more potential candidates. Reports suggest the Young Party has fewer than 100 members at present. Asked whether they support the legislation of cannabis in the UK, 44% of those polled said they did, while 42% are opposed to such a move, with 14 undecided. According to a YouGov poll commissioned by Sister and provided to The Guardian, the Green Party also supports decriminalising of cannabis, as do the Liberal Democrats, who support the legislation of all drugs for personal use and allowing cannabis to be sold on the open. Sister claims cannabis is safer than alcohol and other drugs. Birch told The Guardian, in Colorado, the basis of their campaign was to juxtapose cannabis and alcohol. They knew that once they moved people to understand that it was safer, then people would be happy to legalise it. So what do you think about this one?
Well, why concentrate on the on that stuff way down it was saying about psychosis, 25% of skunk, whatever. Why this, as a recreational drug? Why is it always concentrated on that side of the thing? Why don't they go to full hog and read that? Why are and legalise? It should be illegal. The wholesale, the whole grain of industrial hemp, which is what cannabis comes from, which is what cannabis is anyway, really. And the textiles you can get from it, it would actually not just bring in 900 million or 1 point. The whole economy could be, you could, it would absolutely rejuvenate everything, the whole economy. It would clear up just if they made the legalisation of industrial hemp, because you can pretty much make everything out of hemp, pretty much. From biofuels to textiles to building materials.
Well, we've been covering this in different ways for the past few days, haven't we not? So it's interesting that we've done that, and then this has come up today.
Yeah, you could grow quite a very prosperous economy on that plant alone. The amount of things it could, and it's a hardy plant. It doesn't need any particular type of soil. Pretty much could, from what I've read, you could throw the seeds on the floor and on just on the earth, and they'll just grow.
Yeah, there's so many positives and negatives with cannabis. It should be legalised already. I believe it should be legalised. I hope it is soon.
Yeah, well, they give this cannabis, industrial hemp.
Yeah.
Hemp plant. Let's call it for what it really is, hemp. And it was used not so long ago for everything. It's a remarkable plant from benefit health-wise, medicinal purposes. Like I say, you can make all sorts of things out of it. Biofuels. The oil is fantastic for that. You can run it. It's just never ending. I encourage people to look into what can
it is a good plan, but I wouldn't recommend it yourself to smoke it. I mean, it probably could cause lung cancer, because there's a lot of tar, natural tar in cannabis.
Yeah, but there's that, you see, yeah, but again, it's concentrating on smoking the damn thing. It's not on the earth for smoking, is it? You know,
Well, I don't know.
well, burning anything is not a good thing, is it? Burning so-called fossil fuels is not good. I mean,
but that's how but that's how it's traditionally smoked cannabis now, isn't it? People smoke it.
No, you can vaporize it. You can vaporize cannabis, you can vaporize it, you can eat it, you can have it in tea, you can bake it in cookies. That's just the consumption and the medicinal side of it, and sativa.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. It could end up if it's legalized, it'd end up in supermarkets, wouldn't it, in cakes and stuff.
Well, actually, if it's such a bad thing, why has GW Pharmaceuticals in the UK got hundreds of greenhouses crammed full of it and making a product called Sativax and selling it to North America and Canada and the rest of the world, and you can't even buy it here? Yeah, it's made here to treat multiple sclerosis. It's nonsense the way they peddle these things. But there you go. This is what you get with and it's concentrating on one small negative side of it, if you want to call it a negative. I mean, there's been studies done to say that pot smokers are less likely to die of lung cancer than people who's never smoked in their lives.
1% of British population smoke cannabis, smoke weed.
You got more chance being poisoned by poison ivy than you have been.
Absolutely. I think you know, I haven't put that over very well. There's lots of people out there on the internet, even just ordinary, who know more about this, and there's plenty of information on the internet about this, and I encourage people to read it. I mean, Mr. Baker, what's his name? The Liberal Democrat for Lewis in Sussex. He wants it legalised.
Mm.
But I think he lost his job in the ministry for coming out with it. I don't know, or some junior minister or something like that. But he's you know, and a lot of MPs, I think, you know, not sort of bigging up MPs here, not what I do, but
well, let's move on then, Andy, because we're running short on time, and my next article is in with that. On parliamentary language, the rude words banned from the House of Commons. Anne Soubry may not have used the C word in the House, but she wouldn't be the first MP to use robust language. Is what they are not allowed to say. This video is 29 seconds long, so I'll show you this one. We're a bit slow tonight on my side. No, I don't think it's going to have it, so I'll just start the article. The mystery of whether Tory MP Anna Soubry used extremely unparliamentary language in the House of Commons seems to have been solved, but she'd be far from the first parliamentarian to use robust language. The backbencher was thought to have called Ed Miliband a sanctimonious in footage cut from BBC documentary Inside the Commons, later leaked by BuzzFeed. So you fill in the blanks there. First, let us see. But Mirror Online's analysis suggests she said sanctimonious rubbish. There's an official list of words that are considered inappropriate for use in the House, and it's within the Speaker's power to ask honourable members to withdraw language he deems too fruity for the Chamber. Assuming Miss Soubry did indeed say sanctimonious rubbish, she was probably fine. But had she called the leader of the opposition ignoramus, she might have caught the rough edge of the Speaker's tongue. These somewhat terms and phrases that have been considered unparliamentary over time. Our favourites: off the cabinet or asses. Benjamin Disraeli, King of Zing. According to legend, Benjamin Disraeli was told off by the Commons Speaker for declaring that half of the cabinet were asses, and responded to his censor with perhaps the greatest singer in political history. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw, he said. Half the cabinet are not asses. Miserable pipsqueak.
That's just like Dennis Skinner when he said half the Tories are crooks. Can you, on a speaker said, can you retract that, please? Okay, then half the Tories aren't crooks.
Yeah, remember that. No, the next one's miserable pipsqueak. Tom Watson calls Michael Gove a miserable pipsqueak of a man. I do want to play these videos, but seem to be having a bit of trouble with them tonight, guys. They just want to be buffering all night.
He can embarrass himself. He can disgrace his party. But what is intolerable is that he has cynically raised the hopes of hundreds and thousands of families. You're a miserable pipsqueak of a man, John! You're a finger away.
Order, before we go any further, I must ask the Honourable Gentleman to withdraw the term that I think he used. I think I heard the term pipsqueak. The Honourable Gentleman must withdraw that term in front of him. What I'm doing, you leave this matter to me. Mr. Tom Watson.
Out of deference to you, Mr. Speaker, I withdraw it.
I'm grateful to the...
So Labour MP Tom Watson got extremely angry during a debate over the Education Secretary Michael Gove revising a list of schools who would get money for rebuilding projects. Watson almost exploded, shouting, "You're a miserable pipsqueak of a man, Gove," across the chamber. He immediately withdrew the comment out of the deference to the Speaker and was reportedly told off by his wife. Liar. Churchill had a way with words. It's considered unparliamentary to accuse another honourable member of lying, even if they are. Winston Churchill famously used the phrase terminological inexactitude to get around this rule. Stupid cow. I don't think there's a video there, just didn't image that one. Stupid cow, yeah. House of Commons Betty Boothroyd pounces. This one I had not seen until earlier on today.
Betty Boothroyd.
Speaker Betty Boothroyd was quick to pounce on Tory Tony Marlow when he said Harriet Armour was a stupid cow during a debate on the BSE crisis in '96. He withdrew his remark. Let's go for this one.
She's like a teacher.
He admit that it is his government's reckless disregard for public health and their dogma of deregulation which has swept us into this crisis. Will he admit?
Order. Did I hear there was some unparliamentary language? Order, Mr. Marlow.
Madam Speaker, I said that the Honourable Lady was a stupid cow. If that's unparliamentary, I certainly withdraw.
It is certainly unparliamentary, and I hope that the Honourable Gentleman will have the grace to withdraw the remarks that he's just made.
As I said, Madam Speaker, I certainly withdraw the remark.
Great.
When it comes to children...
And the collected works of Dennis Skinner. I don't think this video is going to work. So, fortunately, I'll have to leave it there. So, is the House of Commons too rowdy, do you think?
Well,
Oh yeah, definite.
Go on, Andy.
Winston Churchill wasn't the only one to say liar. Ian Paisley accused him of falsehood and lies and had to withdraw. And as for Michael Gove, would it have been acceptable in parliamentary language if that chap had said miserable Zionist. I wonder.
Probably.
Well,
It doesn't stop them from saying it though. They can say it. They just have to retract it, and that's it. No more said.
I wonder if it was.
You could go in there screaming your head off and blinding and.
Yeah, but I wonder if it would be unparliamentary language. Because he calls himself that, and he has done it in public, hasn't he?
Mm.
So I just wondered, that's all. But Winston Churchill wasn't the only one. Ian Paisley said it, and he had to withdraw from saying it. Oh no, he didn't withdraw. I think he walked out. Ian Paisley didn't withdraw. He walked out.
Yeah, he did. He walked out. He got sentenced out. He got thrown out, didn't he?
Yeah, he wouldn't withdraw it. That's right.
Yeah.
The lies, he said. Yeah, it's interesting. What was the question? Sorry, is the House of Commons too rowdy? Is it I don't care on there somewhere, or
I think it's just up here and there.
Yeah, excellent.
Well, the Commons is definitely too rowdy. They're always arguing. Always. Every time I put it on, watch it in Parliament channel, they're always arguing.
Or is there somewhere I couldn't give a flying?
Yeah, well, the Beast of
They did more work than
Bolsover.
arguing, something get done.
Beast of Bolsover deserves his own section in this article for an outstanding contribution to unparliamentary language during his 45-year tenure. He's been suspended from Parliament on at least 10 occasions, usually for using unparliamentary language. He also famously trolls Black Rod and the Queen every year at the state opening of Parliament. His acid put-downs have included accusing Margaret Thatcher of taking bribes in 1984, calling Minister of Agriculture Slimate and a war in 1992, referring to the sell-off of British coal mines as a crooked deal in 1995, remarking that during the 1980s the only thing that was growing then were the lines of the coke in front of Boy George and the rest of the Tories. Is the House of Commons too rowdy? Let's see. 37% said yes, or 37.5, and 58.3 said no.
Well, they obviously don't watch Parliament, they do the House of Commons.
Where's the 0.2%? That's what I want to know. There you go, learn that one.
Perhaps that's the interest.
The negative. Right, over 1 million children will fall into poverty in the next 5 years. Here's how to stop that happening. Poverty and inequality will rise to unacceptable levels without government action, argues Andrew Harrop. This is an image from Islington, a homeless shelter in the borough. Rising inequality will see 1.2 million children fall into poverty between 2015 and 2030 unless dramatic action is taken after the general election. A new Fabian Society report, Inequality 2030, projects that in all an extra 3.6 million people will be living in poverty by 2030, with the number of children in poverty set to rise by almost a half. Other groups to suffer huge increases in poverty include disabled adults below pension age, with 1.3 million more falling into poverty, and lone parents. The number in poverty will double to over 1 million. The research applies the Office for Budget Responsibilities, economic and demographic assumptions, and is based on current government policies. Under these conditions, we found that GDP and top earnings would rise rapidly, but low incomes would stagnate. Social security and tax credit policies are the principal cause of the rise in poverty. Worse still, these projections only take account of announced government policy. Poverty will rise even faster if there are further cuts to benefits after the general election, such as the £12 billion package proposed by the Conservatives. So if you want to see a £12 billion package, vote the Tories. The picture painted by these...
Well, you know where that 12 billion is coming from, don't you? They're going to cut ESA support and work related to the same amount as what you get on JSA, £72 a week.
The picture
Plus, they could see, plus they've cut DLA at their pip, about pipping.
Yeah, well, they're trying. It's not everywhere, is it? Pip at the minute.
Yeah, pip's in everywhere now.
Oh, is
DLA still exists for previous claimants.
So what is it? Is it the universal credit
Yeah,
offer?
the over 65s that have been allowed to keep their DLA for life. Those what awarded DLA for life, the over 65s, they've been allowed to keep it, and children have been affected as yet. But you never know with this 12 billion package, they could be cutting DLA for children.
Mm-hmm. The picture painted by these projections hardly bears thinking about. Low-income Britain will not share in the proceeds of growth. Instead, many more families will find themselves unable to make ends meet, and emergency food banks will shift from being a temporary phenomenon of the economic crisis to an entrenched feature of British life.
Oh, yeah.
Strong words. Entrenched feature of British life.
Them along with workhouses.
Well.
Yeah, food banks are here to stay now. They're here to stay. They won't be going.
But this catastrophic rise in poverty is not an inevitability. Political choices, not unstoppable economic forces, will determine how much poverty there is in 2030. So the search for alternatives should be at the heart of the general election campaign. Mm.
But that's why.
No, it's all right. Go on.
No, that's why I believe it's important to keep in the EU, because we come out of the EU, we all are wearing hands of our government. They can do anything. I mean, EU said yesterday. They said that the spending budget of welfare in Britain is not actually enough.
Mm.
They're not spending enough.
And
they've also said some of the policies what they're bringing out go against what they signed up to when they signed the charter. It goes against everything what they signed up to.
What are you going to say, Andy?
Well, if the EU is such a wonderful thing, how comes people in this country can't enforce and take these scoundrels to the European Court of Human Rights on breaches on the British people's human rights every day?
What was the article you mentioned to me earlier, Dominic, about the attempts to remove the human rights and bring some British Bill of Rights?
Yeah, British Bill of Rights.
Yeah, well, that's never going to get through.
But obviously, our government don't care about your rights because they got rid of this legal aid and made it harder to get. So if you have an accident or if you're assaulted in town, say, you can't take it to court. You'd have to pay.
Yeah, that's right. They abolished legal aid, didn't they?
Well, it's not abolished. It's not actually abolished. You just say you have to actually apply for it now, but it's really, really hard to get.
Well,
you couldn't just get it as you could before.
I know, but all in, you know, into purposes, it has been abolished because nobody can get it.
Was that just not for civil?
It's for everything.
Anything.
Everything, even criminal law too.
Yeah, criminal law. Yeah.
Yeah, because the lawyers were up in arms about it at one time, weren't they? Because they're not going to. It's some of the lawyers, it's you know, taking some of their work because you know all that legal aid money that they would have claimed for people is now not available. So they haven't written it into the statute book or whatever they call it, but it's pretty much, in all intents and purposes, abolished. But again, you know, if you're going to be in the EU, then be in the EU. But you're not. This country isn't in the EU, is it? Because you know, you can't take any irresponsible administrative department for a breach of your human rights. You can't take them to the Human Rights Court, the European Human Rights Court, and have them done or anything like that. So, are we in Europe or are we not in Europe? Or have we got one foot in Europe? I think it's just a whole complete scam, the whole lot. But, you know. All right.
Our report concludes that to avoid this huge increase in poverty, the next government should raise the minimum wage to 60% of the median earnings and set an ambitious target of an 80% employment rate. We then propose that a prosperity fund is established so that the proceeds of so-called pre-distribution can be used to fund redistribution while avoiding any new burden on the public finances. The fund
Well, that's actually impossible. So that's actually impossible anyway. I mean, they couldn't if they raise the minimum wage 60%. A lot of businesses have to cut a lot of losses, cut their taxes and that. And there'd be more people unemployed because they'd have to cut the losses, wouldn't they?
If you mean as well as not paying any taxes, like?
No, I mean if they raise the minimum wage 60% and businesses had to pay it, they'd have to cut staff before to pay it. So there'd be more people unemployed. So that's actually unachievable, 80% employment rate.
But then if they rely on top-ups basically and tax credits, don't they? These and they rely on a minimum wage that doesn't pay a minimum wage that doesn't pay a wage, right? Most of these corporations now, most of the employees are on tax credits, aren't they? Working tax credits, and basically the corporations are paying only half their wage. I know several people that are doing that. That seems to be the norm. I think 70.
You pay minimum wage, don't they? Everyone has to pay minimum wage an hour. £6. What is it? 53 an hour.
Yeah, but if it wasn't for tax credits, the minimum wage wouldn't work, would it?
Right.
See what I'm saying, Don? The fact that the minimum wage is a hoax. It's the tax credits that, and of course, this is all profit for corporations. Well, I put a challenge to a corporation or
Order. I ask you to retract that statement.
Yeah. Now, I'd put a challenge to them and I'd say, if you're such a great business, then you pay people a proper wage. You obviously can't afford to do it, so therefore you really shouldn't be in business.
£7. What they proposed, but it's £7.40. I thought that were reasonable. That just it were a start anyway. £7.40 an hour.
Wage,
up north, £7.40 up north is decent wage.
£7.40 down in the south wouldn't even buy you a pair of shoes.
Yeah, up here like Sheffield, up in north, that's a good wage. That'd be decent wage. I could live on that. Company really good. Pay me rent, pay me council tax, get base to buy my shopping, pay the rest of my bills.
Yeah, but then.
Can we carry on? Because this next one sort of moves into what we're talking about.
Sorry, I'm not going to debate it anymore.
You can talk after. Just let me quickly finish. The fund could be used to pay for a big rise in child benefit or to increase benefits and tax credits in line with earnings. Two measures which would significantly reduce the numbers in poverty. Although our projections are chilling, we also show that affordable government interventions can make a huge difference. So we should feel hope and not despair. Full employment action on low pay and a new prosperity fund to increase the generosity of benefits and tax credits can together prevent the divide between the haves and the have-nots from becoming even deeper. See, that's the last part of that. So yeah, over 1 million children. I think it's RT did a similar article. They were saying 12 million.
Yes, right. That's more the figure. This is way off.
This is due to that's
just children. This is just talking about children. 1 million children, 12 million people.
What they're doing is they're taking inflation into account, aren't they? They've frozen all benefits.
It's poverty and inequality.
Yeah, but as inflation rises and benefits stay the same, it's good that more children are going to poverty, aren't they?
I don't see many banks.
What's inequality? It's the haves and the have-nots. That's it. That's what he's talking about.
You don't see many bankers in poverty, yet they were the ones who impoverished the poor, aren't they? The bankers are the ones that have impoverished the 1 million children or so, or whatever the figure is. Yet you don't see many of those impoverished, do you?
No. Okay, I'll move on. Islamic State fighters smash historic statues in Iraq. It looks terrible. Vandals of the Islamic State attacking ancient Assyrian statues with sledgehammers.
Yeah, it annoyed me this.
Yeah, it did me, but we'll go into the article after. Let's see if we get this one to work. It might annoy me if it don't play right now.
If you don't work, just refresh it.
Probably has timed out, do you think? Yeah, I'll get a quick refresh. Okay. See how we go. Try again.
Another side to the wanton destruction of Islamic State, smashing up Iraq's cultural heritage. The group today has released images showing extremists taking a sledgehammer drill to large statues, some dating back to the 7th century BC. As they rampage through Mosul Museum in northern Iraq, they also burned books and desecrated ancient manuscripts. According to UNESCO, one of the most devastating acts of destruction of library collections in human history. Our international editor, Lindsay Hilson, reports.
How proud they are of what they're doing, destroying Iraq's pre-Islamic heritage from the ancient Assyrian Empire. He justifies the destruction of statues in Mosul's museum by reciting verses from the Quran. But this cultural vandalism may not be quite as disastrous as it seems. I got an archaeologist to look at the video. The statues, he said, break like plaster, not like ancient stone.
So these are replicas of the stone?
Yeah, these look like, you see the iron bars coming out of them.
But it's still an assault on the heritage of the Iraqi people.
If you look at how Iraqis are reacting, they're taking the destruction of their cultural heritage, their identity, essentially, just as seriously as the beheadings in many cases. Maybe perhaps not as, but certainly as a high priority, because this is something that deals with who they are as people, and they recognize it.
Everyone remembers how the Taliban blew up the Buddhas at Bamiyan in Afghanistan. This is similar. And it appears that the demolition squad of the Islamic State destroyed an original 7th century winged bull at the gates to Nineveh, the ancient Assyrian capital near Mosul.
I think the winged bull is very important locally because it's one of the few objects that hasn't left the country or hasn't gone to Baghdad. So much of ancient northern Iraqi culture, material culture, is now in Western museums. It's in Chicago and New York and London and Berlin and Paris. Now that's fantastic for us, but that's pretty rotten for the people who actually live in the places where this stuff comes from.
They've also burnt books from the public and university libraries in Mosul. Some may be ancient Islamic manuscripts. The jihadis believe their religion demands the destruction of icons and idols, but it's also a way of crushing the people they rule, of filling them with fear for the future by denying their past.
Yes, the end of me for today. Moving on.
Oh, we're still witnessing, back witness, aren't we? Even today, it's still going on.
Well, they better give back all that thousands of ancient treasure that's stored below the British Museum back to the countries that look like they're going to need it. But they stole from them, but anyway, moving on. Right, it's my turn, isn't it?
Yep.
Right. Oh, no, we better. I don't think we're sharing. Now I'm stuck. Am I sharing? No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are sharing, Andy.
Am I?
No, you've not got nothing up, Andy. You need to. That's it. Now it is.
How's that?
That's the one. InfoWars.
InfoWars again.
Jones.
Well, you have to look into this article and say, what is it saying? Full circle. The first anti-government protest in Greece turns ugly. No intervention by riot police, although squads were standing nearby. Anyway, the first anti-government rally in Athens turned ugly as anti-authoritarian protesters started to smash the windows of a pastry shop and two jewellery shops and put two vehicles and several garbage bins on fire. Now, there's some pictures. According to the latest information, there was no intervention by... Yeah, There was no intervention by riot police, although squads were standing nearby. Earlier, KTG Road, the first anti-government protest, has been launched in Athens on Thursday afternoon, a month after the left-wing nationalist Syriza Independent Greeks coalition took office, a week after the Eurogroup agreement in Brussels. With anti-EU banners and red party flags, members of the anti-capitalist Left Corporation for the Overthrow, Antalya, took to the streets in downtown Athens to protest the extension of the continuation of loan agreements and Varoufakis reform list with austerity measures. Antalya calls for defaulting on Greece's debt and nationalisation without compensation of major industries, banning of layoffs, the disarmament of the police, full political and social rights for immigrants. Although Antalya is not successful in parliamentary elections, it does manage to win seats in municipalities since 2010. In January elections, Antalya received 39,400 votes, 0.64% of the overall vote. For tomorrow, Friday, the Greek Communist Party, KKE, has called for an anti-government protest against austerity and the loan agreements. According to KKE, Varoufakis reforms list contains all the measures adopted by the capital, the governments and the EU against the workers. In Greek Parliament, KKE holds 15 seats. KKE is against the Euro, the European Union, and against everything and everyone in general. It vehemently rejected any offer for Syriza's for coalition government. It is a party of eternal opposition. So basically, these other small parties that didn't really get a show in the recent elections and that, or anti-austerity parties, should we say, starting to kick up a bit of fuss. But are they, what they say they are, or are they groups from other things, should we say? I'll leave you to ponder on that, but Syriza, left-wing, whatever it was, Socialist Party, whatever, looks like they've gone along with the banksters of the Eurozone. So I guess it's going to always kick off. Nothing's going to be resolved from that election. Syriza ain't going to do nothing. They've had an extended loan or something, I don't know, until early summer, and it'll all kick off again. So nothing changes, does it really? Any comments before I move on? No? Okay, right. Moving on. Fresh leak of highly radioactive water at Fukushima plant. This has been going on a bit now. On Sunday, sensors at the Fukushima nuclear plant detected a fresh leak of highly radioactive water to the sea, highlighting the difficulties in decommissioning the crippled plant. Tokyo Electric Power TEPCO said the sensors, which were rigged to a gutter that pulls rain and groundwater at the Fukushima Daiichi plant to a nearby bay, detected radiation levels up to 70 times or 7,000% greater than the already high radioactive status seen at the plant campus, prompting the shutdown of the drainage instrument. Yahoo News report TEPCO said its emergency inspection of tanks storing nuclear waste water did not find any additional abnormalities, but the firm said it shut the gutter to prevent radioactive water from going into the Pacific Ocean. The higher than normal levels of contamination were detected at around 10 AM 0100 GMT, with sensors showing radiation levels 50 to 70 times greater than the usual TEPCO said. Though contamination levels have steadily fallen throughout the day, the same sensors were still showing contamination levels about 10 or 20 times more than usual, a company spokesman said. It was not immediately clear what caused the original spike of the contamination and its gradual fall, he added. With emergency services of the plant and monitoring of other sensors, we have no reason to believe tanks storing radioactive waste water have leaked, he told AFP. We have shut the gutter from pouring water to the bay. We are currently monitoring the sensors of the gutter and seeing the trend, he said. The latest incident, one of several that have plagued the plant in recent months, reflects the difficulty in controlling and decommissioning the plant, which went through meltdowns and explosions after being battered by a giant tsunami in March 2011, sparking the world's worst nuclear disaster in a generation. TEPCO has not been able to effectively deal with an increasing amount of contaminated water used to cool the crippled reactors and molten fuels inside them and kept in large storage tanks on the plant's vast campus. Just another continued leak of radiation into the environment for the past 4 years, continuously leaking radiation. Where's it all gone? Has it just disappeared? Melted into thin air?
Do you remember that team, Andy, that they got together and they sent in when it first happened?
Oh yeah.
Do you know how many of them?
Kamikaze team.
Yeah, do you know how many of them are still alive?
I don't think too many of them are.
Have a look. Go and look them up sometime.
Yeah. Well, even the main man, wasn't he? One of the heads died, didn't he, of radiation sickness. Even he copped it. But yeah, and also the thyroid cancer in kids that's been leaked out now. The Japanese kids that are developing thyroid cancer. But there you go. This will turn out to be one of the biggest disasters of the 21st century, I believe. But it's been all covered up, as far as I'm concerned. I've read a little bit about details and articles about the damage.
Sorry, and this one here, Fukushima one, is a lot. You know, a lot of people are getting fear put into it, and you know they got to get away, got to book a flight, got to go move, got to, you know, and a lot of them has been affected by it. So it's a touchy one, really, isn't it? You know, what do we do with it? It doesn't seem to be.
Well, I think they should tell the truth.
Well, I can see.
Yeah, I think what they should do with it is tell the truth, BJ.
Oh yeah, always tell the truth, but you know.
You know, if anybody's eaten anything from the Pacific, I think is a little bit inconsiderate, especially if they're feeding family members stuff from supermarkets from the Pacific Ocean. There you go.
It's like chemtrails, you know. Got to bury my head in ground just to get away from it.
Yeah, I'm not saying whether you can do anything about it. It's already gone round the globe a dozen times.
Mm.
You know, the air pollution was, you know, that travels pretty quick. You know, so that's already gone round. That's already moved.
Anyway,
I mean, if he's willing to see his fetid fish and we're consuming fish, it might affect us.
They said the sun where it causing it to evaporate into air as well.
Yeah, so
we're airborne, making it airborne.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and you've got all these things coming out. 50% of the population in 3 years' time will have, in the UK, would have encountered cancer. So is that just genetics? Oh, it just happens. You know, we don't really know why. Have another flu jab. Forget about it. Anyway, moving on. Here is something about GMs. And it's MPs want to rebrand GM food to avoid public fear. A committee of MPs have said that ministers must abandon the term GM when referring to genetically modified crops because it has a negative connotations and encourages public hostility to technology. As such, they are calling for a rebranding exercise. Mail Online reports MPs on the Science and Technology Select Committee has demanded a reframing of the public conversation about genetically modified food. In an inflammatory report today, it says that GM label has become a lightning rod for fears about designer crops. It says the term should be reserved for plants created using the most basic form of genetic engineering, with many newer methods excluded. Anti-GM groups accused MPs of trying to pull the wool over the eyes of the public. Peter Melcher of the Soil Association, who gave evidence to the committee during his inquiry, said, "This is probably the most ridiculous recommendation to come out of any select committee in this entire parliament. It's insulting to the public to suggest they can be fooled that easily. Some feared the Frankenfoods could alter ecosystems and have hidden effects on human health." No GM food has ever been commercially grown in Britain, kept out by a labyrinth of EU system that makes it difficult to get the required environmental licenses. But UK scientists and farmers have been campaigning for years to make the process easier. The latest report repeats their calls and urges the government to change its terminology. It says GM is now often used imprecisely to encompass a whole range of technologies. We recommend the government initiate a reframing of the public conversation by moving away from the oversimplified notion of GM in its policies and communications. So, we're going to rebrand it and call it something nice and fluffy, like a McDonald's plasticine burger or something like that. I don't know. What do you think? If they were going to rebrand it, if they were going to call it something else, would they tell the public about it anyway?
No, I mean, we'd find out. The public would find out anyway, and they're not stupid. We'd know what it is. I mean, soon as they rebrand the name, it'd be in front of every paper, the front page.
Well, do consumers actually go to the supermarkets where they frequent, whichever supermarkets they go to, and actually ask the manager or the manageress there about the GMs in the products on the shelves? Do many people actually do that? I don't think many people do.
Oh, I got a bit of seeds yesterday, and I went round, double checking out seeds I were getting, making sure I knew where
the exception to the rule, PJ, aren't you?
Say again?
You're the exception to the rule, aren't you? Because
yeah, but we're on about food here in this article. I was mentioning seeds.
I know. Yeah, but it covers a multitude of things.
Oh, well, yeah, but
it's like the food store about there were disclaimers there was no GM products in any of the stuff they sell, yet they couldn't disprove the fact, they couldn't prove that any of their animal products had GM.
Grow your own, that's what I say.
So I just it's worth keeping an eye on.
GMO, grow my own. That's what it should stand for. Keep it GMO. Grow my own food.
Yeah, if you're allowed to. Remember, you must ask. You're not allowed to do anything without asking.
I'll change the public fear into public inspiration. Grow my own food. That's what everybody should be saying.
Yeah, well, that's a good bit of advice, PJ. I think only 15% maximum will take you up on that.
Well, I'll chase your new potatoes, Paul, when they're done.
No worries, love.
Anyway, that's me done and dusted. Not rating articles, but mind-blowing or anything. But thanks very much, PJ and Dom.
Yeah, thank you, Andy.
Okay, guys, thanks very much for your articles. And to those that are tuned in watching, do join us again tomorrow for another round of Flux News.